We've come a long way since March of 2020 when we thought the coronavirus might close schools for a few weeks. Even before we realized the true extent of the crisis, the staff moved into emergency mode. The staff stepped up to salvage the spring semester. They ramped up to create new instructional platforms and programming. Our IT team was incredibly nimble in getting technology into the hands of students. And the challenge was on to ensure students continued learning and had nutritious meals to last the week and most of all, stay safe. As we prepare for the start of the school year, I assembled a group of my chiefs and executive leadership team for a socially distanced conversation to provide their perspectives on these unprecedented times. Well, I've been a superintendent for close to 30 years and never has my world been rocked like it has this year. First we had a tornado and then we had a pandemic, and neither one of those were on my calendar. So there are a lot of things that we've all had to go through, and it's been very trying, but it's also been very rewarding to see how everyone has kind of responded. So in the middle of these trying times, it's also been very inspirational. Cynthia, how's it been for you?
Dr. Hinojosa, I have to agree with you. It's been very inspirational. We all left going on spring break and looking forward to having some downtime and spending time with, our loved ones and family. And then all of a sudden, we get the call. I guess what was most striking to me is how everyone responded without regard to, getting together and having a meeting. We didn't have that. We all had to learn new ways of dealing with the world and dealing with work. So I think we had a great foundation that allowed us to respond very quickly. We had skill sets in different individuals that really came to the forefront, and they did amazing work. So I have to say our employees across the board responded so well and did such a great job in helping to move the district forward.
Jolie, while we're having this pandemic, you're also taking on new responsibilities with the promotion. So tell us what it's been like for you.
Yes, sir. It's been busy every moment. But like Dr. Wilson said, our teachers and our staff, they have been tremendous during this time. Within weeks, really within days, we had teachers leading virtual lessons, teachers engaging and connecting with families and students. We had a developing partnership with KERA and Univision. So it was really a time to see the flexibility and innovation of our educators, and also a great example of the power of community and the power of teamwork.
David, let's pivot to you. Talking about additional responsibilities, you've also taken on other things, but also just the reality of having to deal with everything. What's it been like for you?
Yes, sir. Well, I think we really seen what our folks can accomplish when they go above and beyond, right? When you talk about essential, our folks were really essential. We gave out over 8 million, Food and Child Nutrition Services gave out over 8 million meals, since we shut down, and we're still pushing on through the summer. Our custodial staff, while folks had to go home, they stayed and cleaned and scrubbed and sprayed and did everything. And I think our folks really took this thing personal to them. Student safety, our staff safety, it was personal, like the tornado where everybody just jumped right in.
Pam, you have to do your job and part of my job too at the same time. So how in the world have you managed during this period of crisis?
Well, I think we have an excellent team. When you go through something like the circumstances we're in now, and you have an excellent team, it does make it a tad easier. I think we've highlighted a lot of what our employees have done, but I also like to really give some kudos to our partnership community, because they've stepped in and they've said, this takes a village. And so they've given us hundreds of dollars in gift cards. They've also helped significantly with our unsheltered population. And then we've also received a lot of PPE to help David and his group. And then along with that, we've received donations of food. So I think it's a team effort, and when we have a team like ours, I think that we can accomplish greatness.
Thank you. Well, our number one priority is always safety, and we have a lot of things that we have to juggle, but safety is our primary mission, and we're all worried about the safety of our students and our staff members. And so, David, you're responsible for facilities. You've had to do a heavy lift, a lot of very specific things that you've had to be responsible for. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about those things that you've been working on?
Yes, sir. So luckily we're in a great position financially to where in March, when we seen that we weren't going to come back, and it was time to start thinking strategically and start thinking of the future, we went ahead and started placing orders. When we knew the rest of the country was going to have to wait a little while to place their orders to see what was happening, we got in front of it. So we were able to buy plexiglass for our classrooms to be able to divide our students, at the secondary level, individual ones. When we talk about PPE, we did get some great donations from different organizations and folks, but we also ordered quite a bit. So while some folks are going to masks and some are going to shields, we're going to both. We bought some that are disposable, we bought some that are washable, we bought masks for the kids. Again, the plexiglass, we started going through the lens of a teacher, through the lens of a student, through the lens of a principal. What does a PLC look like? We just went through everything and tried to order everything we could to not only stock our shelves, but get it out and get it to the schools on time.
David, another thought is that a lot of the people that work with you are unsung heroes. A lot of people have the luxury of working from home and planning and being behind their computer, but a lot of the people that work with you had to be there on the front lines. Can you talk a little bit about the unsung heroes and how they stepped up during this time?
Yes, and I don't need a cue card for this one. This is easy for me. These folks really did go above and beyond. When things shut down, you really start thinking about who is essential. It was very obvious. Like our food and child nutrition services folks to give out those meals, on the operational side, grass still had to get cut, right? Our buildings still had to get cleaned. Maintenance work orders still needed to be filled. And then you have to take on a new responsibility, which is how do I keep these kids safe? How do I, organize a room without the teachers there to space them out 6 feet? How do I put strategically down the hallways where the kids can walk? So this, our essential staff, our operations division, I've never been prouder to be a part of an organization, and I think I've done every job in the district, and this has definitely been so far my most proudest moment.
And as a CEO, I've had to come in and out, and I've been gone very little, and at least once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, I would come in. But I started noticing how we had different people putting down the items in the elevator of where to stand. And I started to see how organically things started getting built for safety requirements. It was pretty impressive along the way. Cynthia, speaking of that, we're one of the largest employers in Dallas. We have 22,000 employees, and a lot of them have a lot of different responsibilities. We make this city work, we make this community work, and you're in charge of human capital management. So talk to us a little bit about your perspective in dealing with the staff and making sure that we have everything ready for what they need to do to serve other people.
Yeah, we've worked very hard to make sure that we had a plan in place that kind of allowed for different things that could happen, whether the pandemic continued to surge or whether it started to decline. We were ready for all of those possibilities. We had 3 separate plans of when employees would return to work, return to their offices, how they would do that. So again, I have to give kudos to our staff members who came together and really put together a plan that encompassed everything, focusing on safety first. What do we need to do to ensure that we have a safe environment? Purchasing all the items that David spoke to, making sure that each individual was communicated to, that we had a website that addressed all the things that were being done, that we put the handbook front and forward on the website so that individuals would be able to access what was going on. Also adjusting, Dr. Hinojosa, we would have conversations in our meetings every week and have to say, what does it look like? Do we need to adjust this time? And we actually did have to adjust coming back in July, in July, as opposed to moving it to August, which we eventually had to do. So just being prepared for that. Again, as I walked into my office and saw plexiglass in the front, and having the accessibility to sanitizer and wipes and all those things, and noticing how the signage was very clear. So we had to look at the safety of our employees, but not only that, as we began to move forward, what are we going to do when we eventually have to begin to bring employees back? And we increased our benefits opportunities that allow employee assistance if individuals want to call in and get counseling if they're afraid or if they're feeling as though they don't know who to speak with. We've extended a lot of those opportunities for our employees. So we feel that we're addressing kind of the social emotional piece of safety as well. So we actually have very clear guidelines and policies about individuals returning to work in person or virtually. And so we've allowed our staff to look at that and assess what their individual desire is to return to work, but always with safety first, but knowing that eventually, you know, our primary goal is educating children, so we have to keep that front and center. And how do we make sure that people feel comfortable doing that?
Yeah, and people, staff in particular, are understandably nervous, and we get that. But I want to assure everyone that we're not going to let you come back to work unless we think it's safe. And speaking of which, we had the expectation that we wanted all of our teachers to work, even if they were going to be working remotely from one of our sites. But then we had to pivot a little bit because the data that we got and the communication with the county, we really needed to make sure that we had to make an adjustment on that. And so that's how we respond to the information that we get. And sometimes we alter our decisions, and we don't apologize for it, but we're doing that based upon the most relevant data that we have. Anything to add to that conversation?
Well, absolutely. I think that we've been in constant communication with city and county officials, with medical professionals, so that we're not just using our own judgment, because we don't know. This has never happened before. You said that early on. We've never done this before. So making sure that we're not flying by the seat of our pants, so to speak, but that we're engaging with community, we're engaging with professionals, we're asking the right questions, and we're applying it to our plan, as opposed to having a plan and just saying we're sticking with this plan without regard to what's going on in the city. We've had to make adjustments, and I think our staff has been very, very flexible in making those decisions and changing them. And sometimes it happens overnight. You know, in the morning, as you said, we had one decision about how teachers would return. By that afternoon, we had a different decision. But knowing that you have to do that and be flexible, because safety is the most important thing, and just ensuring that our employees know what we're willing to do to make sure that they're safe.
And in these trying times, a lot of people don't get this concept. Things are not linear. Things are ambiguous, and if you can't deal with ambiguity, you're going to really struggle in this context, because things do evolve based upon information that you have. Well, let's keep the main thing, and that's student learning, student achievement. Jolie, you have a lot of responsibilities, and we've made a lot of progress in this district, but while we're doing pretty well, then all of a sudden, you know, we have to pivot. We have to reimagine how we're going to do things. And obviously, as the spring break was coming, we saw this situation. We made some immediate decisions. And then just talk to us about how your whole world has been rocked on student learning and leading. Our leaders, our teachers are the main impact on student achievement. Then our principals, who are the second biggest impact on student achievement. Tell us how you've managed all this on the fly.
Well, certainly there have been many challenges, and we are lucky that we have outstanding campus principals and leaders, and they are partnering with central office teams to do exactly what you said, to reimagine what school will look like and to redesign our spaces and our interactions. So, for example, right now we're redesigning what arrival and dismissal will look like, how we're going to engage in the cafeteria, recess, hallway transitions. And so we definitely are focused on redesigning space and then reimagining our interactions with masks, with social distancing, to ensure that we implement safety protocols. So no matter what, as Dr. Wilson said and everyone said, safety is the priority. We're going to be tenacious and consistent with our application of safety protocols, and we have training modules for everyone, for our youngest learners to adults and everyone in between. So we're going to continue to revisit those every 2 weeks and just make sure that no matter what, we're following those safety procedures.
Well, and the instructional models that we've put together are important. And obviously we have a lot of teachers that volunteer their time to learn how to use Google Classroom and how to use Zoom and but now also we have to worry about how do you deliver science in that context and how do you do content in an appropriate way. And while we did a phenomenal job in the spring getting going, the expectations are even going to be higher because we've got to improve on that in our remote learning 2.0 because we don't know how long we're going to be out, and our students this learning gap cannot be exacerbated. We have to find a way to mitigate it. Any thoughts about what our expectations and what our efforts are going to be going forward as we go into the fall?
Absolutely. We absolutely have increased the rigor and the engagement and the plans with our new instructional models. We are going to have two main choices. So families and students, and especially in elementary and middle school, will choose whether to learn 5 days a week in their home, and we call that distance learning, or to learn in the traditional classroom setting. But we have four main things that are going to be the same, no matter if you're learning at home or you're learning at school. Number one, we are going to ensure that there's a full day of learning. So it won't be 30 minutes or 2 hours, but really a full day to provide that equity of experience. The second thing is that the content's going to be the same. So we will have rigorous, aligned lessons that are engaging, that use the same curriculum tools, whether you're learning from your home or you're learning in the classroom. And then also, both are going to be technology-based. So if you're at home and you have your iPad and you're connected to Wi-Fi, or if you're walking into the classroom and opening your laptop, in both settings we're going to focus on technology. And then finally, the fourth thing, which I think is very important, is that we are going to have a healthy, productive balance of engaged learning that is teacher-directed, and we're calling that guided learning, where the teacher will interact face-to-face with students through the computer or in person in small groups and one-on-one interactions. Students will have opportunities to engage with each other, whether it's through the internet or in class. That's guided learning, and that's going to be balanced with independent learning. And so independent learning could be using one of our many computer programs that's adaptive and diagnostic, or independent learning could be turning off screen time and doing individualized assignments. But either way, there's going to be that healthy balance between guided and independent.
Wow, this is going to be quite an exciting time as we all learn to adjust to the new normal, the new reality that we're facing. As we were going down this journey, we were all startled by what happened with the pandemic. And then along the way, the murder of George Floyd also happened, and the entire country was rocked. And as I was sitting there trying to figure out how we're going to move forward with our academic expectations, the entire culture of this country started changing. And then we started seeing people of all colors protesting, saying enough is enough, we're not going to take this anymore. And it was, even as seasoned and experienced as I have been, I think this one is different. And this speaks about culture, and it talks about how do we respond, and how do we, as educators, we all start in this business to make a difference for students, to improve their lives. But then you add this complexity of the Black Lives Matter phenomenon and everything that is occurring. Dr. Leary, Pam, you're very much a student of culture, and you've been helping us trying to move things forward. From your perspective, will you describe kind of how the journey that you've been on, that we've been on, that the country's been on during these very trying times?
Sure, I'd love to. So we often talk about the mission of our district, where we're educating all students for success. But in that journey, we actually saw that we fell short with some of our equity groups, specifically our African American students and our English learners. And so approximately 2 years ago, we launched the Racial Equity Department for the purposes of mitigating some of those inequities. And so as a district, we really have doubled down on the commitment to looking at racial equity lens through all of our decision-making processes, and also making sure that we're adding the necessary resources that are needed to bridge any of the achievement gaps as well as the access gaps for our African American students as well as our English language learners.
Also, to kind of build on something else, this will be my 12th year as superintendent of Dallas, and one of the things that I preached early on was the 4 F's, which have become the core 4. And for a long time, I thought people were just ignoring me about customer service. But somehow you and your team have really taken that to a new level. And even under these trying times, you haven't abandoned the customer service mantra that y'all have been trying to put together. Will you talk a little bit about that, especially under these conditions?
Yes. So culture really is everything to an organization. It really defines our behaviors, our beliefs, and our values. And as a district, we have high expectations. So we really want our standards of service to reflect quality for both our internal and our external stakeholders. And so our cultural tenets of the core 4 are extremely important, and we want every level of our organization to know those, be aware, and embrace them. And that includes that we're focused on transforming student lives, and that we're fast, meaning that we're urgent for all. We're flexible, meaning that we're going to always strive for the yes, and then we're friendly by making memorable moments. And it's through having this language on a common understanding of being part of Dallas ISD that we understand what it looks like and what it feels like to be a Dallas ISD employee and a family member, students, and the community. And so those core 4 are really the tenets that we're anchored in how we live our day-to-day life here in Dallas ISD.
Well, Dallas ISD is part of my DNA. I was here as a student, and then I went to college, and I couldn't wait to come back, and I was a teacher, and I couldn't even get a promotion. I had to leave. And so I went all over the state and finally came back, and I love this city and I love this district, and it's something that about this city and this school district that just gets in part of your DNA. And I've been very proud how our brand has improved. And this summer is a microcosm of the greater opportunity and difference that our staff and our district has had. And I've seen that change over time. And being a student here, being a parent here, being an employee here, I like where we're going, and it's because of the high quality of people that we have and the commitment that we have. And I've seen that commitment this summer. So much was accomplished behind the scenes to try to be ready for the next school year and all the expectations that are out there for us. So I'm going to ask each of you to kind of bring us home with one takeaway that you've had from this experience. Starting with you, Cynthia, what is the one takeaway you have from this entire experience we've had here recently?
Yeah, for me, it's been the excellence that we've exhibited across the board. I'll speak to HCM, which, we have to recruit about 800 to 1,000 teachers every year. I really was concerned about that. I thought, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this when we're not going out and meeting people and, and giving them swag and telling them that Dallas ISD is the place to work. And, our people have actually, our recruitment team and our staffing team, they have stepped up to the plate, and we have today only 98 vacancies. That's not something we could speak about earlier and in previous years. We've always had many more vacancies at this time of year, and they have just done a yeoman's job in identifying new ways to recruit people and let them know how wonderful we are. And I think that the people we've recruited have actually been looking at our website and saying, oh my gosh, look, they plan for this, they plan for that, they offer us this, it's a great district to work for. And it really is something that you said earlier. Dallas ISD is really a destination district now. It's where the best of the best want to be, and we work every day to make sure that the tenets of the core four are embodied by our staff members, so that as we're recruiting people, they hear how we react, they know we're fast, we're flexible. We've made a lot of changes to ensure that we're getting those people on the first time out. Oftentimes we were late trying to get to secure them and have them sign the deal, but our staff has they've been champions at this, and that's one of the highlights, is that we've gotten quality people. We've gone to different colleges because we could do it virtually. We didn't have to spend the dollars to travel there and stay there and spend numerous days there. We've been able to call them up, get them signed, and I think it's been very exciting for me to see that transition and how my team just worked really, really hard to get it done.
David, what's your biggest takeaway from this whole experience?
On the operations side, a lot of our folks, they went to school here. They're raising their families here. Their kids go to school here. So when I say they take it personal, it really is personal to them. And then the culture that we've built together as a school district, we were really intentional about making sure that these schools were safe, and it is just across the board in the operations department. You can feel it. I mean, there's a buzz when you go into our warehouse. There's a buzz when you go into our campuses and meet with our custodians. I mean, it is truly awesome to see. And I thought the tornado was the worst thing that we had to deal with. But they just persevered this year like nothing I've ever seen.
And Jolie, from your perspective, what's been your biggest takeaway?
I do believe that the heart of any organization, it's all about the people. And we have outstanding campus leaders, principals, and teachers, and they are working together. They're flexible, they're resilient, and they are innovative, and they're just so deeply dedicated to serving families and taking care of the needs of students. And so I think that those efforts have just come to the forefront and really shine this year, and we couldn't be more proud and more grateful.
Well, since we believe in the 4 F's, and friendly is very important, that's why I hired Pam. She's a lot more friendly than I am. So Pam, from your perspective, what's your biggest takeaway?
Sure. I guess I would say that, we're all experiencing unprecedented times. And so in the middle of any challenge or every challenge, I think lies opportunity. And I guess I would encourage us all to really focus on the opportunity as we start the beginning of this new year.
Well, I'm known for a lot of Hinojosaisms, and so unfortunately that is actually true. It's not what happens to you, it's how you respond. And I think that's what's happened in our district. We've gone from people having the victim mentality now to we're being featured on the national news and about how we're responding and how we're making things happen and how we've taken this innovative model and made it work. It's also, very important to see that, no one wants a whiner. The people want problem solvers, and we have this crisis, and I think we've taken the attitude that you don't waste a good crisis. And when you've got a crisis, instead of whining about it, what are you going to do to improve your system? What are you going to do to solve problems for other people? And I think that attitude has become pervasive in our system, and it's not easy. And the responsibilities that we have and the profile that we have is very difficult. But I'll just close with this. A lot of times you take a vision, and the vision is so esoteric it's not even real. But our vision is to become a premier urban district. And I think now we're making that vision become a reality. And this pandemic and this crisis is a microcosm of what, when I'm out there, you know, they talk about who are the premier urban districts in the country. And we're in the conversation with Miami, and it's a very short list. We may not be the best, but we're amongst the best. And that wasn't true several years ago when we had a lot of struggles. But I think when you go through something like this, the strong prevail, and we don't make excuses, and we find a way to deliver. And it's not always pretty, and it's not always perfect, and we have to go back and revisit things and make adjustments along the way. But I am very proud. It makes me very proud to have grown up in this city, to be an immigrant, to be the leader of this school district, you know, for more than a decade. Although I had to take a little break, I had to recharge my batteries. But I think that it just shows the kind of talent that we have in this community and the kind of support that we have for our educators and for our entire school family. So thank you for engaging in this conversation with us.